I want you all to know, all 87 of you, as I film this video, I appreciate you. I appreciate your viewership. I appreciate your dialogue. I love talking movies with you, and you're important to me. And that may sound melodramatic. I am a Leo, but to show you just how much I do care, I'm doing this video. I actually rewatched the 1977 Exorcist II. That pile of steaming dog shit, that atrocity, that horrible fucking movie. Seriously, moving away from the melodrama, this was literally the second time ever in my life that I watched this movie. The first time I watched it, I had it on DVD, and I literally couldn't get through it in one sitting. It was just littered with so much stupid shit. Like one scene, for instance, that just seared in my memory, and it was no better the second time I watched it, is this scene where there's a fire in like the basement of a hospital, and Louise Fletcher goes like, oh, I'm gonna call the police. And she runs to a fucking phone, picks up the phone, okay, hangs up, and then walks to the fire extinguisher that she passed. Almost like the person on the other end of the line was like, is there a fire extinguisher? Oh yeah, there's one right here. Well, use it, you dumb bitch. Louise Fletcher, won an Academy Award for Best Actress or Supporting Actress 2 years prior for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest for Nurse Ratched. I mean, woman's a stellar actress. Maybe it was an agent. Maybe she was like, oh, The Exorcist, that's a big controversial film, right? Like, this will be good for, it's like, read the script. I really can't explain what she was doing in it. Max von Sydow, maybe it was just the thrill of returning as such an iconic character, even though it was only flashback sequences. But, holy shit, this movie's bad. Upon second viewing, it wasn't. I think that I'd built it up in my mind to be more of an atrocity than it is. I really did try to look for the good in this movie. There's some shreds, few and far between. The main priest, he carries the movie. He's definitely melodramatic, he's evil as evil. Evil. He's very stagey, very kind of melodramatic, but in a good way, he carried the movie. He was pretty good. Linda Blair is, she's okay. She was passable. It was a little bit. She's not a terrific actress. I'm not saying she's horrible, but she's not the best. There's a weird fucking thing that this movie does with tits, man. I don't know if Linda Blair was, I believe she was actually 11 or 12 when they filmed the first Exorcist, okay? So this being 4 years later, we're talking she's probably about 16 and stuff. And she's walking around with braless in every scene. And it's just kind of all right. And then there's another scene later where Reagan's old nanny or, housekeeper lady, whatever, from the first Exorcist, she comes to the door. She opens the door for the priest. No context for anything, but it's just totally see-through nightgown that she's wearing. And it's okay, this director just likes tits, man. I mean, hey, I do too, just as much as the other person, but it's you're not dealing with an exploitation like Friday the 13th movie here. You're making a sequel to a legendarily well-executed horror film. Many argue the best of all time. Why should you answer the door for a priest with the tits hanging out? It doesn't make any sense. There's no, and again, it's not if she was possessed or something like that, then okay, it would have been more oh, all right, okay, so she's trying to taint him or whatever. But at any rate, this movie does go on too long. It is kind of a drag to get through. It really is. And there's a lot of stock footage of cameras going over the plains of Africa. And there's the sound of Pazuzu traveling via the locust. It's all right, enough. And then there's this whole thing with the fucking locusts, how the locusts are a plague, but there's the good locusts. And what? There was one scene that was actually kind of cool where James Earl Jones plays the grown-up version of the boy that Father Merrin supposedly did the exorcism on, okay? And so the new father in this movie goes to see him, and he's got this locust kind of hat helmet thing on that looks actually kind of cool. And he basically says, in order to find me, you were brushed by the wings of Pazuzu, because Pazuzu for some weird reason helped him find him. It doesn't make any sense. But anyways, that particular scene, he goes you've got to cleanse yourself, you've got to do an act of faith. And there's this floor of spikes between the two of them. And he says you have to walk on that, you know. And so the priest goes, steps on the spikes, they go through his foot, and he's like, oh, and he hits the ground. And then when he hits the ground, he's on a hospital floor, and James Earl Jones is like a doctor. And that's when he starts explaining all this stupid shit about the locust. That scene was actually kind of cool. But the whole thing about the locust was so fucking dumb. It was so stupid. And even like the whole plot, it's like there's this evil version of Reagan that is Pazuzu, that is still inside her, and it needs to be extracted and then killed. And it's like, what? Bro, that totally defiles everything that happens at the end of the first Exorcist. Father Karras says, come into me. The demon goes into him. You see his eyes get all that weird greenish hue. And then he goes, no! And he jumps out the window and kills himself. The demon is clearly inside Father Karras. It's almost like the movie was trying to say that the demon can just like go from body to body, but then it's like, then why did the first Exorcist even go down the way it did? It just didn't make any sense. It was really, really dumb. It came off as a shitty cash grab, you know? And I mean, I don't know, this director, John Boorman, maybe he really put his heart into it. And it's like, if he did, I feel bad kind of ripping it a new one, but I kind of also don't, because it's just a bad movie. It's really no wonder that The Exorcist III basically just pretends that this movie never happened. I mean, I think that everybody is pretty thankful for that. I would even say that this is a like what if kind of a deal, you know, like an alternate universe, like what if the demon wasn't out of Reagan, but it's not even interesting enough to really be that. So Exorcist II, I guarantee I've not said anything about it that somebody hasn't said at some point or another on the internet. There's really nothing new that I could add to it, but I added to it anyway. So I hope you liked the video. All right, guys. That's all she wrote.